Thanks for joining us on KARE 11 News Now. I'm Lauren LeMagic. Now let's get to your headlines. New this afternoon, Minneapolis city leaders are speaking out after the Trump administration moved to dismiss a federal consent decree requiring police reforms for the city of Minneapolis. The Department of Justice requested in February to pause that decree that was put in place after the 2020 murder of George Floyd put MPD in the spotlight. Today, the DOJ says it will pull back on that lawsuit and accompanying consent decree because it, quote, went way beyond the Biden administration's accusations of unconstitutional conduct within the department. Now, just this week, the police department said it was happy with the progress being made on a state decree focused on making reforms.
The whole idea is not just policy changes on a piece of paper. It's the policy change. It's making sure our officers know what the work looks like and what they're supposed to do. It's ensuring that they are trained in on how to comply. It's holding them accountable when they don't. It's lifting them up when they do. And it's making sure that every interaction that every person has on the street is in recognition of the changes that we are trying to make. In other words, they're treated with respect and dignity, even during the toughest of situations.
The motion to dismiss the consent decree now lies with a federal judge who will decide the next steps. Meantime, the Minnesota Department of Human Rights says the state consent decree isn't going anywhere. In a statement, the Department of Human Rights Commissioner says a tremendous amount of work lies ahead for the city and the police department, and the Department of Human Rights will be there every step of the way. Progress today on the wildfires raging in Minnesota. According to an online wildfire tracker, the Camp House fire that has scorched more than 12,000 acres of land is now over 70% contained. We also learned today the Jenkins Creek fire was caused by people. So far, it has burned nearly 17,000 acres of land and is 13% contained. And the smaller Munger Shaw fire is almost fully contained. The Animal Humane Society here in the Twin Cities is now caring for dozens of cats that were rescued from a home up north that was on standby to evacuate because of that Jenkins Creek fire. Ian Russell visited the Humane Society to see how they're doing.
Gray skies.
We're really happy we were able to help.
Can't stop relief from shining through.
So the cats are doing overall very well.
Like many, Liv Hagen at the Animal Humane Society has been keeping an eye on what's happening up north, now caught up in the relief herself.
This is the first incident that we have needed to respond to related to the northern Minnesota fires.
As those fires popped up, so too did worry and concern. Many were forced to evacuate, taking only what they could as the fires burned on. That includes pets, more difficult for some.
60 plus cats, that's a lot of animals to try to make accommodations for.
The Animal Humane Society took in 61 cats from a home near the Jenkins Creek fire.
Oh, you're so sweet.
The owners simply unable to move all of the animals themselves. Hagen says this is not a situation of cruelty.
The owners were doing a great job. They were doing what they could, but ultimately, over 60 cats, that's really tough.
Hagen says the owners reached out to the Animal Humane Society, which then sent crews last week to help bring the cats down to Golden Valley.
This was not a situation that we would consider neglect. Really recognize the situation could really quickly become an emergency.
A bright spot in the wake of disaster.
No adventures today. Hi.
As relief calls out.
So even though we're 3.5 hours away, there's still animals in need. We will respond to that.
Now, the owners of those cats gave all of them to the Humane Society. Hagen says the ultimate goal is adoption for all of them. Now, they're still being worked on and getting treatment for some minor illnesses they came in with, but overall, the cats are in good shape. So certainly some good news out of those fires. Right now, we're waiting to learn when a special session will be held at the state capitol. The governor and legislative leaders have set a deadline of 5 p.m. today. Lawmakers are still ironing out their differences in the budget bills after failing to reach a deal before the session ended last night. Governor Walz says he will not call a special session until the terms of those bills are worked out. But left on the Capitol floor at the end of the legislative session was the Office of the Inspector General, part of lawmakers' response to fraud in state programs. For the latest on that fallout and the chances of it coming back in special session, we turn now to Gordon Severson.
We want to get this done.
In the final hours of the session, House Republicans made their last-ditch effort to create a new state inspector general.
With the teeth, the power to actually dig in and find out what is happening and actually do something about it.
Since the bill wasn't on the schedule, Republicans needed a 2/3 majority just to vote on it.
The clerk will take the roll.
They didn't reach that 2/3 threshold, but they did have a majority. So if the bill did make it to the floor, it appears there may be enough votes to pass it.
It's unfortunate that it didn't get there.
Republican Senator Michael Kroon was frustrated the bill didn't get a vote in the House. The Senate passed the bill nearly 2 weeks ago by a wide margin of 60-7.
Why do you think it didn't make it through the House?
Obviously, it seems like politics got in the way.
Senator Heather Gustafson, a Democrat, is also frustrated, saying in a statement, the Senate has done its job. Now we're calling on House leadership to meet us at the table and help us finish it. The public is watching, and they want action.
Fraud is something that has to be addressed here in the state of Minnesota. We have made great strides going forward.
Republican House Speaker Lisa Damuth is hopeful the Office of Inspector General bill will get a vote during the special session.
The bills are ready to go. They could be slipped in at any point in time during that special session.
However, House Democrats say there's no chance.
We don't have the $9 million for it. So ultimately, the Senate dropped it from budget negotiations when it was clear we didn't have the money for it.
With a tight budget this year, money could be the issue. Authors of the bill admit it would take about $9 million to create the Office of Inspector General and to hire more than 30 employees to investigate fraud in state agencies.
It's a very small dollar amount, and I can't imagine that the cost is the issue.
Republican Representative Patty Anderson, who worked on the bill, suspects there are other reasons why the bill is getting pushback. She says some Democrats may feel this office would have too much power.
The fact that it has law enforcement power, but that's the way it is across the country.
Authors of the bill say regardless of what happens this year, they are committed to trying again next year.
Minnesotans expect us to get fraud under control. They won't stand for this. So whether it's in the special session this year or whether we have to go back at it next year, we're going to continue to do that.
New today, the crackdown on off-brand weight loss and diabetes treatment drugs is about to take effect. A federal deadline to stop the sales of the GLP-1 medications is this week. The off-brand products contain the same ingredients as Ozempic and Wegovy, but they do not have the FDA stamp of approval. Many consumers started buying these off-brand and less expensive drugs when increased demand of the brand name FDA-sanctioned items led to major shortages. However, the FDA now says the shortages are over, meaning those flexibilities given to the manufacturers of the compounded drugs will end. Developing right now, 3 Metro softball players and an advocacy group are suing Minnesota's Attorney General and other leaders over the state's policy allowing transgender athletes to play on teams matching their gender identity. It's something the state has allowed for more than 10 years and has defended under the Minnesota Human Rights Act. The lawsuit follows a recent executive order by President Trump banning transgender athletes from women's and girls' sports. Minnesota's Attorney General sued in response. Female Athletes United, which is an advocacy group based in Texas, is representing the 3 Minnesota softball players who say the state's current law is unfair, unsafe, and violates Title IX.
I'm sorry that it had to happen that way, that the lawsuit had to be filed. But girls' sports are for girls, are for biological girls.
That has nothing to do with the safety or freedom of girls. Trans girls are girls. They have been playing sports in Minnesota for a decade. There has been no problem.
Now, those are 2 lawmakers on opposite sides of the issue. They say the case could end up before the Supreme Court. New video today showing several trucks packed with supplies entering the Gaza Strip as the Israeli military ramps up its attacks again in the area. Israel saying they are targeting the Hamas terrorist group. Gaza has been cut off from any outside help for 11 weeks. No food, fresh water, or medicine for injured or sick people. Right now, outside monitoring groups that are tracking the devastation say the entire strip is on the brink of famine. A look now from Capitol Hill, where a vote is expected today in the House of Representatives on a massive and contentious budget bill. The bill is a legislative priority for President Trump and does not need any Democratic support in the House to pass. But some members of the GOP are holding out. The bill increases spending on immigration enforcement, extends the 2017 tax cuts imposed by Trump, and temporarily ends taxes on tips and overtime. Those taxes would be offset through cuts to food assistance, clean energy funding, and Medicaid. If it passes in the House, the Senate still needs to pass it too, and several Republicans there have already said they'd be making changes to the bill. A heads up if you shop at Target, the mega retailer is signaling that prices in its stores are about to go up. In an earnings call this morning, Target leaders cut their earning guidance for the year. That's after a slump in sales during the first quarter. Target blames the drop on tariffs, which are causing economic uncertainty, and backlash for its decision to roll back DEI policies and programs. The lawsuit filed by a woman against her neighbors over a basketball hoop in St. Louis Park has been officially dismissed. Judge Lois Conroy dismissed the entire suit filed by Julia Ramos. Ramos had argued the family next door installed an in-ground basketball hoop too close to the property line. Well, earlier this month, St. Louis Park City Attorney said that suit goes way too far in trying to stop kids from playing on their own property. Stick with us. We have more news and weather coming up after the break.